They going for two. They going for two. They can't. Oh, shut them down, man. Shut them down. Come on, man. I tell you what, did you see 50 blowing? That dude was awful. That's what defense. 56. I think they're the best two players on the team.
No doubt. They got
to be straight to the NFL.
That's right. I believe it.
But they ain't as good as their daddies were.
No, not close.
They were real good. They can play some ball.
I guarantee you.
Woo! Mercy.
Man, I tell you what a game. I think I'm going to head on up to the river, do my little celebrating up there. We're going to go up there this weekend. You want to go with us?
I think I'm going to pass. I'm on my youth pastor, Pastor Cliff, preaching on worship Sunday. And, I want to hear what he's got to say.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Fred? I think I'm going to do my worshiping up on the Tennessee River. Laid out on a flotation device.
Well, Jeff, Lamont, let me ask you a question. I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. Are you a Christian?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm a Christian. I go to church. I mean, I always go to church on Christmas and sometimes on Easter. And, I'll pray every once in a while,
Let me ask it another way. Do you have a relationship with Jesus? A relationship?
Well, yeah. I mean, me and Jesus kind of got our own thing going, but,
You're newlywed, right?
Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way. If you only seen your wife maybe 2 times a year, and you talk to her just every blue moon, what kind of relationship would that be?
Well, I guess it wouldn't be much of a relationship. I mean, if I only saw my wife a couple of times a year and only talked to her when I was having a problem or something, it wouldn't be a very healthy relationship, I guess.
Well, we go back a long way. We went to school together. I've known you for years, and I know you claim to be a Christian, but I've just seen your lifestyle lately, and of course I've seen some things you put on Facebook and that I know for a fact would not be pleasing to God, and I'm worried about you.
Yeah. Well, Fred, I've been going through, some trying times in my life, and that's kind of how I deal with it. I just kind of a little bit of escape. I might post some things, or there might be some pictures that may not be really what I should have had on there, but it just, that's kind of my way to get some things out and deal with some things.
Well, God's got a plan for you. It's almost like this. Let's say you played for the Covington Chargers. Coach Wheeler said, Lamont, what I want you to do is go long and left, and you go short and right. And every play that you did was just the opposite of how Coach Wheeler designed for it to happen. Son, we would lose the game. It would be a disaster. You would be a disaster. We would lose, and your actions also would affect the other players too. But he's got a plan for you, just like Coach Wheeler's got a plan for the game. God has a plan for your life. And if you get in accordance to His will and be the person that God, not perfect, none of us are perfect. None of us are. But strive to be the person God's called you to be, His plan for your life would explode. He would bless you beyond measure. He would use you in a way that you could never imagine. And it's unbelievable, Jeff. And that's what He wants for you and everybody in this stadium right here.
You know, Fred, I've never really quite thought about it that way. You know, I've never had it presented to me in such a fashion. And you really got me to thinking. And, you know, I think you go to First Baptist Church.
I do, in Covington.
And, you know, I don't think I'm going to go to the lake this weekend.
Amen.
I think I'm going to come to church and hear Brother Cliff and see what he has to say about worship.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you Sunday.
All right.
Hey, what about that 54?
How about that 56?
That's what I'm saying, baby. Woo!
All right. Thank you, Fred and Lamont. What a pleasure. I don't know if we have them on our roll. We need to check that. I'll tell you, here in Covington, I'm known in a lot of ways. Okay, some good, some not so good. But probably when I go to Walmart or go through the community, I am noticed more as Brother Cliff, the chapel teacher for Tiffany Christian Academy. I teach chapel a couple days a week for the 3-year-olds up through now it's going to be the 5th grade, and so it's always awkward when I'm shopping in Walmart and one of the little kids comes and hugs me from behind or just starts running up towards me. I just want to give him that stiff arm because the mom and dad don't know who I am, and so I quickly go to the parent. I'm Brother Cliff. I work at First Baptist Church. No, I don't. It's not weird or anything. I probably might make it weirder than it really needs to be. So that's the first way. The second way, I am recognized as the team chaplain for the Charger football team, and that's always really neat. I get to meet a lot of different people through this ministry, and Coach Wheeler and the staff know just how fortunate I believe. It is for me to serve in this capacity. So thanks for having me back. Each year, I always say, if you want somebody else, you can have somebody else if you need to. And so he keeps coming back. I just don't think there's anybody else. And then third, I think I'm known in the community as Cliff, the youth minister at First Baptist Church, and that's funny because I make my money, make my living by being the youth pastor of First Baptist Church, and so it is a pleasure to be able to have you guys, the football team here at First Baptist Church. This is the beginning of our football camp. It'll go through Tuesday. And they'll have practices, and we'll be feeding them and Bible studies and things like that. So make sure you talk to some of them, let them know you're glad to see them. And guys, we are glad to have you. This morning, first off, I need to tell Jeremy I really want to beat you up. You really stepped all of my sermon. With when music ministers just get up here and start talking, it's never good. But no, it was funny. Raise your hand if you've ever heard a pastor say, after maybe like a choir special or a solo like Cindy saying, "Oh, that goes so well with my sermon. We didn't have anything to do. It just happened that way." Anybody ever hear a pastor say that? I'm so cynical. I always think that dude is so lying. He set that up. And but we were having a staff meeting or something. We were talking, and Jeremy just in passing asked what I was talking about, and I said, "I think I'm going to talk about worship." He said, "Oh, that is so cool." And you can kind of see how it's set up through the entire service, about worship. And my statement this morning is worship is life. It's life. And there's a quote up there, and it says, I got this from our Doe River Youth Camp just a couple weeks ago, and it says, "Our worship can't be based on our circumstances because they change. Our worship is based on God Himself, because He does not change." Guys, we don't need to look very far to see how true that is. We don't need to look outside the walls of our church to look at families whose circumstances are bleak. We don't need to look very far. Maybe we need to look in the mirror to find families who are hurting. And if our worship was based upon our life circumstances, then our worship would stink. It would be sorry. And it wouldn't be proper. It wouldn't be as high and as great as it should be. But thank the Lord, it's not based upon our circumstances. Colossians 1:16 is the verse up there. There we go. Colossians 1:16 says this, "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him." All things were created through him and for him. We have a couple of, I call them youth pillars. Okay, they're like the guiding objectives of our youth ministry. Some of you know what they are. The first one is we were created to bring God glory. That's it. I mean, everybody, teenagers, adults, everybody needs to know what the purpose is. So we were created to bring God glory. The second thing is that all of our students will be equipped and they will know how to have a personal quiet time with God. The third one is that all students will have the knowledge and ability to lead somebody to the Lord. And then the fourth one is they will be able to articulate what they believe and why they believe it. Those are our four pillars. And it just so happens that this morning we're really going to hit on the first two. I didn't do it on purpose. But guys, we were made to worship. We were made to worship. Now we're going to hit on the battle that happens inside of us. I think for the most part, you know that we were made to worship. That's cool. That's great and everything. But does that make it easier? You know, in that desire to have that relationship with God, is that easy for us to do? No. Why? Because there's so many outer voices. There's so many other distractions that are louder than God's voice. And those distractions get louder and stronger and more abundant because why? We devote most of our time to those things. It's just like a football team. It's just like having a practice. If your position coach, if your head coach, whatever, is trying to teach you, the proper technique, or you need to take this 90-degree step, or you need to attack this shoulder if you want to get this guy turned, whatever it is, if you're not paying attention to what your coach is telling you, you're just thinking, "God, I'm ready for that water break." Then guys, you're allowing that water break to be a distraction, and you're missing the point. Does anybody have? This may just be a big guy thing. I don't know. Please be honest with me. That just make me feel good. Does anybody battle with the battle between eating sweet and salty things? Raise your hand. Like maybe it's late at night. You get hungry and you don't know. Do I want something sweet? Do I want something salty? Anybody there? Okay, that's me. That's me. It's an ongoing battle. I polled the office the other day, and the ladies knew. I think Donna she wants something sweet at the end. Is Sharon here? I haven't seen Sharon. Sharon, I think, wanted something salty, and so it was like they knew it. I still don't know it. It is an ugly battle at the Marion house every night. All right, let me tell you about this experience just real fast. I was at Super Summers, our leadership camp, and they have the snack cart open every night, and you could buy pizzas by the slice for like $2. Well, one of the guys that I was there with, he wanted to buy a whole pizza, but they wouldn't let him buy a whole pizza. And it's like, well, okay, how many slices are in the box? And they said 12. He said, well, give me 12 slices on a plate. They wouldn't give him the box. It was kind of dumb. So we brought the whole pizza back to our room, and something happened. Maybe we blacked out, and all the pizza was gone. And it was great. And for the most part, we were full. And we were just sitting around talking. And I found myself, it was like an out-of-body experience. I found myself getting off of the couch and going to the kitchen and getting Oreos and milk. And so I brought the Oreos and milk back to the living room where we were sitting, and we began to eat, and an entire sleeve was gone. I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Next thing we knew, another sleeve was gone. And we're like, oh, that's bad. But there was only one sleeve left, and you can't leave one sleeve of Oreos in there. So we finished all 3 sleeves. So we had the salty craving with the pizza, and then we finished it up with the Oreos. And just when it was time for bed, I said, man, those chips are looking good. And so yeah, I had some chips. I probably had in that one meal my week's allotment of calories. That's why I have the body of a god, Buddha. And so, don't be jealous. And so, I remember thinking that night, what just happened? You know, and it's truly it's a funny battle, and I know it's something that we all face. You know, you want sweet and salty and things like that. Surely there's just something that, like, you know, soothes both needs. All right, if you know what that secret thing is, hold it, write it down in the prayer offering, whatever. Let me know what that is. I really need to know. But this morning, hey, our daily lives are just like that battle. We know that worship is sweet and it is fulfilling. But then we have these other temptations over here that you know, what I deem as salty. That has no relevance to this, but we have these other distractions that are saying, look, man, I'm good. You need to give me your attention. You need to give me your attention. Our focal passage today is Matthew 5, verse 6. It's a part of the Beatitudes. And it says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." They will be filled. I love it. I love it. It's so simple. Those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, they will be filled. This morning I have a couple of illustrations. Let's hope that I don't knock everything over. All right. So this morning, I want us to talk about being filled. Now, Jeremy talked about this a little bit this morning. Of just imagine that we all came in here this morning to worship, and we had been worshiping all week long. We have been having our quiet time. We have been spending time in prayer. Man, hey, let's be honest. Worship can look like a lot of things. I believe me loving my wife and my family, that is an act of worship. I believe you giving your best football players your talents and abilities and going all out every practice and every game. I believe that is an act of worship, that you are using the talents and abilities that He has given you and you are reflecting those back to Him. That is worship. Singing is not worship. It's a part of it. But that's not the only thing that worship is. If you think that having Jeremy lead us in worship or putting on a CD is worship, guys, it's so much more than that. It is so much more. So I have this cup. This cup symbolizes our life, okay? This is us. We're empty. Without God, we're empty, all right? There's nothing in us. Just imagine during the week, you spend time in prayer. God pours into you, okay? And you do it every day. You do it every day. You spend time with quiet time. You read the Word. You fellowship with one another. You spend time in prayer. You meditate. You listen to God. You're focusing on what God wants you to do with your life. And then you come in Sunday, and your cup is basically full. Your cup is basically full. And so you come in, and it's time to worship. And then next thing you know, God's going to pour into you. The Spirit is going to be moving inside of you. And next thing you know, as you're getting full, what happens? You start overflowing. And our life should be an overflowing experience when we come in together and worship. You shouldn't be coming in empty. And you have to ask God and through the fellowship of others, man, I'm empty. I'm not bringing much today. Fill me up. You know, there's times in our lives where that is acceptable and that is okay as we go through those ups and downs. But that's not what we should be every week. Weston said it last week. Guys, we should be worshiping Monday through Saturday, and Sunday is just an overflow. That's what it is. That's what it is. God wants to fill you up. He wants to fill you up, not just at First Baptist Church, but He wants to fill you up on the football field. He wants to fill you up at your job. He wants to fill you up in your marriage. He wants you to be filled up by your children. He wants you to be filled up through your everyday relationships. He wants you to be filled up by what you watch on TV. He wants you to be filled up by what you look at on the internet. He wants you to be filled up by what you read. Everything is an opportunity to learn more about God. Everything. But what begins to happen is, say this is our life right here, this bowl. It has water in it. It's filled. Okay, God has filled us up. But what we begin to do is we begin to fill our lives with junk. Whether it's too much TV, too much internet, bad relationships, we just continue to fill ourselves up with stuff that is not of God. And what was originally pure and clean and set apart for God, once He puts that in our life, we begin to put disgusting things that are not of God. And God, guys, we have one heart. We are one soul. And you can't expect to separate the things that you put in and the things that God puts in, okay? Luke 6 tells us, for out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. You guys know that. I'll use this sponge to show us this. Here's a clean sponge. It's supposed to symbolize our life, okay? And so, when we fill it up here, we squeeze it out, it's clear. You see? It's clear. Because that's what God has filled us up with, right? But if we fill our lives with the junk, the things that are not of God, unholy relationships, we fill ourselves with too much social media, too much junk on the TV. Guys, the inside is going to be like this. And again, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when we pour ourselves out, or when we're squeezed out, it's not going to be clear. Look, no. It's the same thing that we have been filling ourselves with during the week. So don't expect to come in on Sunday and you're filling yourself with junk all week long and expect to have an unbelievable worship experience, because no, you're just literally, you're pouring yourself out. And if you've been dipping yourself in junk, you've been just inundated with nothing but terrible media, you're going to be nasty. You're going to be nasty. Don't expect the overflow of your heart to just magically become pure and righteous. Because it won't be. It won't be. What are you filling yourself up with? What is it? You need to think about that for yourself. Guys, in no way, shape, or form am I trying to bring about behavior modification. Because if you just go home today and you change your behaviors, you will fail down the road. It's like starting a diet. Okay? You're going to fail at that diet unless it's a lifestyle change. Trust me, Walt is laughing at me because he knows I'm speaking from experience. Guys, it's not about behavior modification. It is about desiring His holiness and separating yourself apart from this world to God. And it's so hard. It is so hard. Let's read Psalm 63. Psalm 63, verses 1 through 5. It says, O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My body longs for you in a dry and weary land where there is no water. I have seen you in the sanctuary and beheld your power and your glory, because your love is better than life. My lips will glorify you. I will praise you as long as I live, and in your name I will lift up my hands. And the last verse, my soul will be satisfied as with the richest of foods. With singing lips my mouth will praise you. That's one of my favorite verses in Psalm. One of my other favorite Psalm is, I believe it's Psalm, is it 42, that as the deer panteth? Anybody know? Yes, it's Psalm 42, that, you know, that hymn, as the deer panteth for the waters of my soul longeth. You know, is that on key, Jeremy? No? Okay, we're good. So it's that hymn, okay? You guys know that hymn. I have a funny story about the hymn. Does anybody, we all do this, young, old, you know how you hear a song on the radio and it just immediately takes you back to a memory? You guys know that? Well, being the awesome, good-looking church teenager that I was, I had girls lining up to date me, believe it or not. And that really wasn't a joke. But Sarah can't say anything. But so I literally had those girls. And to be quite honest, you know, I gave you my rules or my pillars of youth ministry. The youth ministry that I grew up in, they had 2 pillars. Pillar number 1 was boys are stupid. And pillar number 2 was don't date Cliff. So I beat that. I married a girl in our youth group. So the song "As the Deer Panteth," it's right along the lines of my soul longs for you. So I started telling the story. I dated this one girl. She is a doctor now, believe it or not. Okay, I dated, you know, she's a doctor. That's cool. She's still not married. I understand why. So she's a doctor in the Seattle area, and we dated a little bit in high school and college, and she was a little bit of a piano player. And so one day we were over at her house, and what do good Christian teenage boys and girls do on dates? Well, the girl shows how she can play the piano, right? And so she played the piano, and the one song she was really good at was "As the Deer Panteth for the Water." And so now whenever I hear that song in church or I hear it, you know, on the radio, it's a great song to worship to, but all I can think of is that ex-girlfriend. And so it's kind of awkward, but I just think, you know, the symbolism and the wording in there is, as the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longs after thee. Do we really know what it is like for our soul to be thirsty? I think for the most part, a lot of us are thirsty, but we're filling it with something less than what it deserves. God wants to fill us up. He wants the Spirit to move. He wants us to be full. And His promises guarantee it. His promises guarantee it. Has anybody ever heard of the devotion Jesus Calling? Jesus Calling is it's a 365-day devotional, and anyways, it's written by a woman named Sarah Young, and it's written from the perspective of from Jesus, from God speaking directly to you. It's based out of Scripture, and I was going through it the other day, and the one said, I shared this with our youth the other day, and it says, "You tend to feel guilty about pushing back the boundaries of your life to make space for time alone with me. The world is waiting to squeeze you into its mold and to crowd out time devoted for me." You guys get that? We know that we need to spend time with God. Sharon is one of my greatest role models in the sense of every day she starts work with quiet time. When I get here, if I get here a little bit way early, she's in her Word, she's reading her devotional, and she tells us she prays for us as a staff every single day. And so, but this is my life. And maybe this is yours, because I know when I get into the office, I know that the first thing that I need to do is I need to get the Bible out, and I need to get my daily devotion out, and my prayer list out. That's what I need to do first. But what happens is I get in and I see that little blinking light that says I have a voicemail, and I check that voicemail, and then that leads to somewhere else, and then that leads to another thought, and then I find myself checking the news, and then the time is gone. The time is gone. Now, that's a lie right there that the time is gone. Why don't I just stop right then? It doesn't matter if it's 10 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. If I think about it, why don't I just do it then? It's because it's an ongoing battle for all of us. It says, listen to me above the clamor of voices trying to distract you. Again, guys, I ask you, what is it that you are filling yourself up with? What is it that is distracting you and keeping you from growing in your relationship with God? Because as you can see in this simple illustration, God wants to fill us up with clean, with something that's pure. And yet we turn it dirty and dark and nasty. And we wonder why the pain in our lives. We wonder why the suffering in our lives hurts so bad. Well, first off, I found in my life that the most pain and hurt that I experience are results of my bad decisions. I don't know about you, but the result of my bad decisions is not some injustice that somebody did to me. It's not because somebody has gotten sick, at least in my lifetime. But I bet if you were to examine your life, and you examine the trials and the heartache and the pain and suffering and the toiling that you've spent in your life, I bet you will find that it is your own fault for not getting plugged in to the ultimate power source. Don't waste your time on something that's less than God. There's one more thing that I want to read, and this will be it. It came out of July 18th of this book, and it says this. It says, I am nearer than you think, richly present in all your moment. And he says, this is not some sort of escape from reality, okay? Turning our eyes to Him and getting in tune with Him. It's not some sort of escape from reality. It is tuning into the ultimate reality. I am far more real than the world you can see, hear, and touch. I had this feeling, this is just from the first book of Cliff, that we're going to get to heaven and we're going to realize just how surfacey this life is. I don't think that we can only use 10% of our brain, right? All right. Anybody ever seen that movie Limitless, where that guy could take that pill and he can use more of his brain, and it's almost uncontrollable, unbearable? Well, I think that when we get to heaven, we're going to realize just how real God's glory is. We're going to realize just how real our souls are. And we're going to realize just how surfacey this life was. Just to think of the heartaches, just to think of the issues that we get caught up in. If we just had the conviction to say, that is not of God. If we had the conviction to say, this is where I want to be, and this is where I am. What do I have to do to get here? That's the Christian life. That's the Christian life. It's not difficult. We make it difficult. We focus on the wrong things. We make it about ourselves when it is absolutely nothing about us. Guys, I want to encourage you. If this is where you need to be and you're down here, fight with all of your might to get there. There is nothing in this life, not your family, not your church, not your job, not your habits. There's nothing in this life that is worth more than your relationship with Jesus Christ. Nothing. Let's close our eyes. We're going to enter into a time of invitation in just a moment. Before we do, I just would like for us to think about those things in our lives that are pulling us down. When I speak only to youth, I A lot of times I mention, dating relationships. Maybe that is you if you're a single adult. Maybe it's other relationships with friends, people who bring you down through gossip, who bring you down through their worldly advice. Think about what in your life is keeping you from your relationship with God. And once you pinpoint that, I want to ask you to be brave enough to give that over to the Lord. Give it up. And if you think, Cliff, I can't give it up. I mean, it would be like you driving a 1980s hoopty and me sitting here trying to give you a 2012 Ferrari. And you not taking it because you have too much sentimental value for that old car. Guys, don't accept second best. A head coach isn't going to accept second best for his team. Your pastor is not going to accept second best for this church. You know why? Because it's not God's will for second best. Good opportunities are all around us, but the great ones are few and far between. And guess what? A lot of us never have the courage to get there. Pinpoint what it is in your life and be willing to give it over to the Lord.